Or you got 10 minutes.
All right, so let's see. From the point where you have built a course. Now, whether this was a couple of teachers at a single school who were working together, who were like, we've been trying to make a course for a while, and we went to a bunch of meetings and talked about some ideas, and maybe those ideas got written down somewhere or not, and we've been just kind of making slow progress. You could use this system in a single school to develop your own version of what you need to be teaching your students. And from there, if you want to really start adding in the functional component of this thing. So it's not just that now you have a really pretty looking syllabus. The idea is that this thing is functional, right? So here again, AP, just went with the easiest stuff I could find, broken down into all its little subtopics. So now you're here, and you want to add to your course maybe some lecture materials that were written by somebody who's really good at lecturing, or wrote some clicker questions, right? So you come in, you can find maybe Dr. Pollack's 1D motion clicker questions. You grab these, you just drag it and drop it into here, and now on your course page is a set of clicker questions ready to go. If you're interested in finding out, well, what other research is out there related to how to teach students in nuclear physics, say for instance. Pop in here, what do you got? You got something about how to teach the Bohr model effectively. All right, so either you can simply just read this as say it would already be embedded in here as one of the bits of research that's existent. So you're just zooming in on your nuclear physics and you're like, all right, well here I am at the Bohr model. I have to include this in my course, but I don't really know anything about it. What's out there? Click your button for research. You can see research, you can review the research. You don't have to go out there and pawn through a whole bunch of different random websites to find something good. At the point where you're now a teacher, your school district has given you this to build your courses from, embedded in here, although I haven't gotten to the action objects that allow you to choose between different views, are lab materials, assessments that are pre-made that you can use either directly or that you can develop your own assessments and learning structures from. So, is there any clarity here? Have I provided any clarity at all about
how do you discern what level things are appropriate for? Which is to say, I can imagine an assessment being on a whole class of things, or on an individual, very detailed, specific item.
Sure.
And so you could imagine having, sort of this incredibly detailed classification scheme by which things get linked.
Sure.
I guess that's how it has to happen.
Yeah, I'm sort of going to jump ahead here because I like that question a lot. So, if you were interested, so you've chosen your own particular version of the options that are available to you for a fluid mechanics course, we'll say. And you zoom all the way in here, and you're like, well, all I did was these pieces here and entropy, right? So now, this is what I chose for my course. That's all that would exist there. Like, these pieces would disappear, but if you don't want them to disappear, if you're still in the planning stage for your course, you're like, I care a whole lot more about isobaric and isometric processes than any other process. You do that and you look over and you say, what are the assessments that are available to me which are related to the union of these two choices I made?
Okay.
And that does an enormous amount of filtering for you, so that you're not pawning through all of these different assessments that would have been related to either a totally different topic in the course, a completely different course that was just mislabeled, or, I guess mislabeling would kind of still be a problem here. But, yeah, so however you have customized your course from an existing standard thing, you can use that as a filter for anything else you want to add.
But you have to
your
go
course.
down to the specific clicker question or to the specific assessment question to be able to tag things, even to say if it belongs to a cluster. So if I said that I wanted all clicker questions about the Bohr atom, that's a much larger scale than one particular type of talk about energy level, you know. And which is a subset overall maybe of the, you know, quantum mechanics conceptual survey, which is a much larger scale. But you have to zoom into those, to the individual questions has to be tagged.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're going to add a question to this, so one of the other directions, I'll just throw this out there now, and I'm not going to explain it too much, is, so you got people who are building these standards and courses from the top down.
Right.
You got people who have either just done research, who've tagged their own research, or have made their own assessments and tagged their own assessments. And you look again for validity in the overall structure of the system by seeing, did the tags of these assessments and bits of research match up with the context that were generated from the top down?
Seems like a lot of work for a normal person. I mean, no,
Well-
I mean, I wouldn't do that.
No, but what if this were already done? What if, for lack of a better
Then I'd want
For
to.
people to ask.
knowledge structure, what if this already existed? What if this were Wikipedia?
But
of-
I mean, if this had, if it was indicated what my level of confidence in it was, that would be one thing. Right? I mean, you can put any crap you want on the web. And the only reason Wikipedia works is that it's got editors who are going through and removing crap and changing stuff. And that's the only reason anybody trusts it. Okay, it's not because somebody just puts stuff up. There are plenty of YouTube videos that nobody ever watched.
Yeah, so when you've built this whole standards thing, and teachers just make choices of what to use in their class, just those choices are already votes.
And
Right.
but what if they're choosing for the wrong? I mean, there's no reason to believe that the choices of teachers correlates with effective learning in students.
And additionally, so here's this whole structure that's collecting information about which pieces of it have been chosen by a teacher. Now that teacher chooses to use this union of learning goals and topics and throws in this assessment, and the results from that assessment get passed all the way back up. I mean, at every
Well, what
stage
does it
of this.
mean? I mean, I realize that there's huge amounts of data being spit around. The question is, what does it mean? Does it mean anything? I mean, you can get caught up with the fact that you can crunch huge amounts of numbers, and at the end of the day,
Right,
it
but
don't
this
mean
is-
shit, right? I mean, garbage in, garbage out.
No, and so, the assessments themselves definitely need to be good quality. And I've got something that I call a Socratic survey, which I think is a type of assessment that is ideal in pretty much every situation, but happens to fit this thing absolutely perfectly.
What does that look like?
Well, yeah. Well, okay, and maybe we'll sort of end up here. I want to come back to this. I mean, I think you're putting too much of a burden on this, Mike. I mean, the question is would this provide you more information about where students are at and what it is that we're doing than simple grades?
I don't know.
And I think the answer is yes.
You could if it was limited in its scope a little bit more.
Well, I think the answer is yes. It gives you finer grained information cut up in a different way. But I mean, the implicit assumption is that more information is going to be better information.
Well, right, which is sort of Mike's question. Another way of, let me put it this way, I do know that information is more rigorously tied to the content of my course, which is to say, the assessment of student learning, I think, in this, is more deeply rooted and connected to a structure of my course where my teaching, so goals
The question is,
Are-
what's the assessment?
are linked with that.
Is
Well,
the assessment
right
valid
now,
or
but the
not
point,
valid?
well, yes, except for the fact that the assessment that you're using